Well, hey there, and welcome to the Outdoor Miles podcast, where we share real stories behind life on the move. I'm your host, Tom, and no matter where you're listening from, if you crave freedom, travel, or meaningful stories, you're in the right place. So today I'm joined by Meera, the founder of Haseru Life, a small business that started with one great idea: create a towel designed specifically for people who live and travel differently. What she's built is more than just a product. It's a reflection of a lifestyle that values simplicity, purpose, and the little things that make life on the road more comfortable. Meera and I met at the Hershey RV Show, and I was immediately drawn to her story. In this episode, we dive into the inspiration behind her work, what it took to bring it to life, and how staying grounded and connected continues to guide her journey. So, as always, grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's hit the road. All right, Meera, welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you here. Maybe do you want to start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what your company is?
As you mentioned, my name is Meera, and my business is Haseru Life, and I have a towel company, towel business I started based on towels that we designed together as a family.
Great. Well, am I pronouncing that right? Is it HaSthru Life, or I struggled with it a little bit. I wanted to make sure I was going to get it right.
So our business name is Haseru Life. Haseru literally translates to the word green in our native South Indian language. So my daughter helped pick the name for our business, because when you choose Haseru towels, you're choosing the green path of life. It's a towel that was intentionally designed to save resources. So you're choosing to go green with Haseru.
And did you give your daughter freedom to come up with it, or were you just kind of brainstorming and it just came out and it was like, oh, that's it?
So once a year, and this is a little bit best, right? Once a year, I let my kids pick a day that they can play hooky from school. They're good students. They're good kids. Most of the time, now they're both teenagers, so the story is separate. So this one day that my daughter had less workload from school, she didn't have any tests or anything. It was that one time, day of the year. So pick her up at lunchtime, and that's when we have mom and daughter time. This one with my daughter. And I said, what do you want to do? And she said, well, let's go to lunch. And I said, okay, on the way, can we stop at a couple of stores? So I'm like, sure. So we stopped at some stores and we looked at towels and we're checking them out. And then we went to the restaurant of our choice. We sat down, and then I was like, oh, we should pick a name. Because it was an idea, but it's kind of hard to formulate in my mind, to come up with a business without even a name. I can't explain it. I need to have concrete product in front of me, or I have to have, I don't work with theories. Let me put it that way.
I get it.
It's abstract.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me. So I was like, let's give it a name. Let's give this baby a name so we can work on it better. She's like, okay. So we looked down at the table, but there are all these cloth napkins. And I was like, oh, well, we can't scribble on these. So I said, hold on. Oh, well, let me ask for some paper. When I went to the bathroom, washed my hands, and they had paper napkins. I got a couple of napkins, sat on the table, tossed her a pen, a couple of napkins. I said, okay, start writing whatever comes to mind. And that's when we started scribbling on these napkins. I actually kept those napkins, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and then we were writing it down. We were like, let's try to incorporate the word green somehow. She's like, well, in Kannada, what do you say for green? I say Haseru. She goes, well, there you go. And I was like, oh. So I wrote it down. She goes, yeah, that looks right. And then I was like, well, what else? I was like, well, how about a leaf? Because I don't know, it's green leaves.
Yeah.
And we just drew a green, an outline. We didn't have any color markers with us or anything, but yep, that's it. It was that simple.
Yeah. I love hearing stories of how businesses are created and formed, and how ideas are kind of taken to that next level. So I think it's so cool that you have that first napkin, that little hand drawing, idea sheet that, kind of was the start of all of it. So cool. And that you got to experience that with your daughter.
Every part of this has been meaningful and so exciting. Sometimes we'll sit down as a family and I'm like, oh, let's watch a movie. The kids take so long. They argue for so long about what we're going to watch. By the time we actually pick a movie, it's an hour later. In the meantime, we've all watched together an episode of Shark Tank or something, while we're working on something. And then we're like, oh, you know what else? And we end up spending that hour brainstorming instead. It's just fun.
Yeah. And some people have that, I think a lot of people have that entrepreneurial spirit. And it's it just takes the right moment for it to come out. And kind of once you get on that roll, it's kind of like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And you're kind of, before you know it, you have a business and you're like, you wake up one day and you're like, well, this didn't exist yesterday, but here we are today and we're going to make it a reality. You and I met at the Hershey RV Show. And I know a lot of businesses are like, they're, with the internet now, everything's like online, people trying to do something on the side, but trying to get like in front of people and get your product in front of people. I think especially for what you're selling has a significant benefit. Like people see it, they can touch it, they can feel it, talk to you about it. Or what's it like connecting with people in person and showing them your product and showing them what you dreamed up and made possible?
So, well, let me explain this all a bit. The reason, you'll see why I'm explaining this, but I wasn't much of an online shopper until just a couple of years ago. Actually, over COVID, we all became online shoppers, right?
Right.
E- Even before that, I wasn't someone who would go online and be like, this looks nice. Especially when it comes to fabrics like texture, we can't feel things online when you're looking at them online and you're reading reviews, but those don't necessarily ring true to you, right? It doesn't apply to you because for me, it's a sensory experience to pick out a product, like something that I would touch my skin, So when I go to these events, what I do is I actually have a towel laid out and a spray can of water, as you saw. And when people say, does it work? And I want them to try it. And I don't even say yes. I'm like, you know what? Just pick it up and, you're welcome to spray your hands and wipe it on the towel. Just you decide if you feel like it works for you. We have common problems, space. Towels have so many issues. For the most part, our towels, most people's, like the conventional towel takes about an hour in the dryer. Well, let's say 45 minutes. Let's be, 45 minutes to an hour in the dryer, right? And sometimes even after it's done, it's supposed to be done, there's like a little bit of dampness. And if it sits there, it doesn't smell great when you take it out in the morning or like the next day, because not everybody remembers to take out their clothes from the dryer. And it has that funky smell. Then you put it back in the dryer, or you just use it and you're sad using that smelly towel. And that's a common pain point for a lot of people. And the space issue as well, right? So that's where I connect with potential customers in person, because I just have a shelf with those towels lined up. I have a pile, like there are 2 towels on one side and the same size shelf, 10 or 12 of them, just to give you a comparison. You can see for yourself exactly how much space you can save. So if you feel this pain point, if this is something that bothers you, loss of space, if you live in a compact area space, or the smelly towel situation, or a towel that doesn't always fully dry you off, this may be something to consider.
Because when you and I had that conversation there, sometimes like as a consumer, there's a solution to a problem that you didn't even know existed. So like for me, when we were talking about the towels, I'm like, you know what? Like in an RV, it takes forever for a towel to dry and there's never anywhere to hang it up. And you're using a tamped out towel day after day. And even if you do happen to have like a washing machine or a portable washer in an RV, you can't really wash towels in them because everything's so small. So you're going to the laundromat. And I just thought when we were talking, I was like, wow, this is really a creative product that I didn't know I needed until I saw it, until I talked with you, until you explained a lot of the benefits behind it. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then when we got to talk about your story, I was like, I even as much as I love the product, I love the idea of how you kind of, came up with it and involved your kids and your family, and your husband was there, and it was just the energy behind that experience that I had meeting you that I thought other people would want to hear about and learn about. So with that being said, let's kind of jump back to those early days. You said, coming up with the name, it was like you and your daughter sitting around at lunch and jotting ideas down on a napkin. Jumping back even further, how did you come up with the idea of, and why did you come up with the idea of creating a different type of towel for travelers, or that was, geared towards people on the move?
Okay, so at the start of COVID, kids were home with us and everybody seemed to be showering like we wanted them to. Sometimes, kids are sneaky, they don't shower. They're like, yeah, I showered. But then suddenly they would go outside, they'd jump in the pool, they'd come in, they'd take a shower, or they'd, at the end of the day after, playing basketball or whatever, yard work, or take a shower. And our son was taking showers, our daughter the towels were accumulating. Nobody in our house will reuse a damp towel. So every time they use it and they hang it on a shower rod or a hook, always. So by the end of the day, like let's just say, I'm going to say 12 hours later, it's never fully dry. It was never fully dry. So, and it would smell kind of funky. And they would like, well, they take it, toss it in the hamper. So you know how the hamper's starting to smell too, right? You don't do laundry every day. But for the towels, because of the towels, we had to start doing it every other day. So when we would wash our towels separately, a lot of people wash them separately, we used to. Or if we tossed it in, if the kids are doing laundry, they'd toss it in with everything else. And then when it comes to the dryer, their t-shirts and shorts and other things, lighter clothing would dry and the towels would weigh down the load. So that was a pain in the butt. One day, and then we'd have to take out all the smaller clothing, put those aside because they're dry, and there's just the towels. Like, so annoying. Or when the towels are in the dryer, they would take forever. And one day we were watching over COVID, our washer just died. It just stopped working because all of that towels are lumped up on one side. I stood there, I was telling my husband, I was like, has to be a solution to this. We cannot be the only family who has this problem. And at around the same time, so we ordered a new washer dryer, bigger, better, everything. I mean, but then we still have the issue with the dryer running for an hour after just for the towels. I was like, this is not energy efficient. And I'm on this group text with a bunch of girlfriends, other moms, and all our kids are friends. And everybody's talking about like, just commiserating, okay? Everybody's got we can't see each other. But a common problem, like this one professor friend of ours in this full group, she goes, we got takeout and all of these, we didn't have to do any dishes. They came back from work late. The kids, like, they were taken care of. Everybody's fed, bathed. And there's a pile of laundry to do and 2 baskets of just towels. And she just started to cry. And she was just like upset. And I was like, wait a second. I was looking at that text and thought, okay. So, and then right after that, everybody started complaining about towels. I was like, okay, everybody has this problem.
A cowl revolution.
Yeah, right. And then, there is and I was like, wait a second, in India, Southeast Asian countries, they use a thinner towel. It is really very similar to my towels, but they're yay big. They're not very big, or they're not fanciful. They're beautiful. Cotton. In India, they are cotton experts. So they make the best cotton products. But they're very functional, not necessarily aesthetically pleasing. But I had a pile of them and I gave them to the kids. And I was like, well, here, use these. They're like, well, okay, fine. And they used them, but they're like, I'll just go back to the other ones. Why won't you use them? It's like, well, Mom, they're not big enough. They're not thick enough. They're not da-da-da-da-da. We don't like the colors. It's like, wait, hold on, let's write this down. So we started writing it down and we're like, well, what if I had towels that you guys would like? Like, we made them exactly as you like. Would you use them? Like, yeah, why not? But I was like, well, hold on, let's see what we can do. So we started, I have family in India. I have a cousin who works in the cotton industry. And I go, hey, can you find towels like this, box them and ship them over? Because remember, it's COVID, so no travel, right? I couldn't go myself to go and pick them out myself. He goes, sure. So he ships a box. And then my kids and I were like, oh, yes. We're like waiting for them. You remember COVID when we get excited when a box came in the mail, even if it was Amazon and we knew what it was.
Oh, I know. I mean, like, you didn't have much else to do other than like look out the window and be like, oh, somebody's coming. It was, it's definitely exciting.
Shoo away the groundhogs from the garden. Yeah, I know. It was us. So this box of towels came. We were so excited. We opened it up. We're like, oh, this is nice. And then we took them and I told my kids, okay, we'll keep one each. And then why don't we, so we tried a couple of those towels. They're like, oh, these are nice, but, and they said they had a list of complaints. I was like, okay, let's write it down. And then let's see what other people think about it. It's not just for us. Let's just share this because we were bored. So the kids rolled them up and put them in their friends' mailboxes, right? Because again, no contact. And then they made a Google survey to see what it is their friends liked or didn't like about them. So then people in these...
Your kids did?
Yeah. Yeah, my kids.
Oh, so cool.
Like, okay, because they noted their likes and dislikes and pain points and everything. And based on that, they made a Google survey. So my kids are little at the time. My daughter was like losing all the baby teeth. It was cute. Like, it was just like, she would like kind of whistle when she's talking. It was so cute. And then they made these Google surveys, and they sent it to their friends. So after about a week or 10 days, everybody would have a chance to try it after it goes to the wash and everything. And they would respond, and then we would all sit together, compare all the responses and see, okay, so this is what they like, this is what they didn't like, and then we would redesign it, right? We would make another list of requirements, and I would send that list to my cousin and say, hey, can you try this now? Can you find something based on these requirements? So we did that a couple of times, back and forth, back and forth. And finally, the travel ban lifted, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go. So I went for a couple of weeks all by myself, and I traveled the southern belt of India, where the cotton industry, that's the heart of the cotton industry in India.
Okay.
And I found a weaver. I went from village to town to village to city to village. It was interesting. It was quite the experience.
Yeah.
And my cousin introduced me to these really, really nice families who are weavers, weaving families. And this one family understood my mission, like what I was trying to do. They're like, wait, you want towels for America? They don't want our towels. I'm like, they don't know what they don't know, right?
Yeah.
So let's give this a try. Like, are you guys on board? Would you like to try something new? And they're like, okay, yeah. So I found something I liked, and we modified it as so now they make us hand-dyed towels down to our specs. The size, I wanted them bigger. Like, no, they said, nobody wants 6-foot-long towels. I was like, yes, 6-foot-long towels is great for the beach. And these towels are fantastic. I said, well, I want this thickness and these are like all these specs. And long story short, they worked so well with me, so patiently. And they hand-dyed these towels for us. They're custom made to our specs. It's really cool.
That's so cool. And they're beautiful looking. I mean, they're just like, I don't know. You feel like there's like in a world right now where everything is just so mass produced, you go to Walmart or Target, like, everything's kind of the same. And just like the uniqueness and individuality behind these, and now the story behind these, I think is such a really cool element of your product and your business. So how was it like trying to like, I'm assuming, you think you're a social worker by trade. So I'm guessing you didn't really have any experience kind of going to talk with cotton manufacturers or towel manufacturers. Was that like intimidating, or were you kind of excited about it, or just kind of, I'm doing it, whatever you had to do?
A little bit of everything. I was not intimidated. I was excited. I was just really excited, and it wasn't hard for me. Like, I just go and I want to be like everybody else. I just dress in Indian clothes. So I like the traditional Indian clothes. And in the southern part of the country, they're very traditional. Like, I dress exactly I didn't want to see me any differently. I didn't want people to know that I've come from a different country, and because I don't want them to be uncomfortable, I want them to talk to me.
Right.
So if I say that, oh, I've come from the US and this is what I want to do, they just shut down, right? So once I had developed rapport with any one family, like weaver, right? A weaving business, weaver community, I would talk to them and they'll say, well, this is why I want it this way. They're like, oh, no. But by then they're comfortable talking to me. Does that make sense? And my cousins, my husband speaks the local language. So he's the kindest, most patient person I know. But I mean, he really helped. Without him, he facilitated the whole thing. Without him, I don't know how I would do this. But he spoke the local language there. So in the state that we get our towels from, they speak a different language and I don't speak it. So it was interesting. But I understand, like, body language, everything is the same. Like, it's very nice. Like, people, they see me and they're like, you look thirsty, here's a glass of water, right? Or we're taking a tea break, come sit with us. We'd all sit together on the ground and drink tea together. It's very nice.
Very cool. I think that's a really good example of how, like, you have little steps that you have to take to get to the end goal. And, everything from the testing it out at home and talking to the other moms that you're friends with, and having your kids do the Google survey, to traveling to India and meeting with weavers. It's when you step back and from the outside, I look at that, I'm like, wow, that's that's a lot of work, and a lot of challenges in there. But I like how you kind of like just walk us through that story and broke it down step by step by step. Because if, I think a lot of people, if they, if they have an idea or they want to do something, it's easy to get that paralysis at the very beginning or the onset of that idea, because you think, oh, it's so hard. Like, how am I ever going to do all of these things? But, if you break it into steps little by little, you get there, as long as you have the drive and the inspiration to kind of take your idea make it into a reality.
You asked me earlier, like, how did I decide I wanted to make a towel for travelers? I actually
Yeah.
started off with trying to design towels that my kids would pick up that would dry 15 or 20 minutes in the dryer. I didn't want it running forever. I wanted something that's energy efficient, right? And that required less water. I was all about saving resources. People forget that, you know what, when you're in an RV, if you travel, space is a resource, right? Like, to take a big bulky towel, I'm not going to show you, but here I have one of my towels. But this is in my hand here. In one fist, I'm holding 1 6-foot long towel. Like, if you can stick that, or like in one hand here, I have 4 6-foot long towels. This is all I put in my carry-on them for my family. And we go to the beach, camping, hiking, anywhere. We travel a lot. So we don't even check in luggage. This is in my carry-on. Just stick this in. It's a game changer for anybody who travels and wants to have a clean towel, a fresh field towel every single time they shower, because it dries fully through and through. You could take it to the beach and sand brushes right off. I mean, you saw the demonstration I have, at the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I'm guessing that like from your story, your inspiration wasn't like RVers, but I think it's so interesting that it's a product that is so relevant to RVers. Like, it's something that, like, if there was an RVer that came up with this idea and said, I'm making this to solve this problem for people that travel in their RVs, you'd be like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. And you've kind of solved your problem at home, and then you're finding unique ways to solve the same problems or different problems for other people that have a certain lifestyle. Either they travel a lot, or they like to go to the beach, or they're more environmentally conscious.
and a lot of the ways that I approach different, like RVs, right? To go to an RV show wasn't something I thought of, came up with on my own. One of my friends, she called me, she's like, Meera, I take this on the beach, on our boat all the time. I love them. Like, why? If it's great for a boat because it fits in that little compact area, why not to the RV show? I'm like, there's an RV show like 10, 15 minutes from us. Like, do you want to think of that? I was like, yes. I'm in my mind. I'm like, I'll try anything once. That's where I am. Like, I'm like, go, I'll do anything. Let's do it. So I did a couple of above shows. I did RV shows. Like, they get it. They understand. And then
Yeah.
I last year I did a ton of street fairs. I didn't really know where to start, but it was good to reach out to people in the community, and like 15, 20 minutes, like these street fairs within 15, 20-minute radius of us. I'll go there, and I would go there, and people would buy them one day, and then they'd be like, where you could come back again? Like, I get messages on my website. I'm like, well, I'm going to be at this location. They come back. And this one woman came and she bought a dozen towels after she bought it once, like a few months earlier. And it's like, I remember you. And I remember.
Oh, that's so cool.
And yeah. And we're chatting, and she's like, actually, my husband is a police officer. And ever since he started using your towel, first, that one towel I bought from you at the street fair, I just took a chance and I bought it. His towels are no longer wet. They don't smell gross because he uses them in the locker room.
Yeah.
And then everybody in the police force in their office uses like similar towel. No, the old conventional kind of towels, right? So she's like, I'm just giving one to all of them. Like, I just hear it's really based on feedback from my customers that I know. Like, I know proof of concept for us, because my son will use it and take it if he goes to the gym, uses it. I have a lot of customers who buy these towels for their children who are in college or college bound.
So cool. And I think, you talked about a lot of the feedback that you got from these. And, I think with any type of business or effort that you're putting out, whether it's like through your work, a lot of times it can be challenging. I know for me, like, especially like, I'll put a video out like on YouTube, and I'm like, is anybody going to watch this? Is it going to be useful or helpful? Or am I going to get, people hate comments on my videos. And the things that like when somebody like responds and they say, "Thank you so much. That was really helpful. You helped me solve this problem." It makes you feel good. And I think, getting feedback like you just described for, all that effort that you put into this, is validating, I'm sure. Is there any other like really like rewarding feedback that you want to kind of highlight, or something that somebody mentioned about your product?
When I have when people buy them, I love my favorite experiences are from the ones that are in person because we get to talk face to face, connect a little bit. And the towel situation is, for the most part, a common pain point. Every time people use them and I hear back about how it has benefited, just like how you said about your podcast, right? Or your YouTube video, you get responses. That's always helpful. Or somebody would say, I brought these for my daughter. She's in the army and she loves them because they're quick to dry and they don't smell
Yeah.
funky. They're not gross. Any kind of feedback, it just makes me feel so good. I know I'm making a change. But I think my most favorite, like, while I appreciate the feedback from customers, my greatest joy, there are a couple things here. I would say greatest joy, but it's really a two-part thing. One part is that I do a donation. For every 5 sold, I donate 1 to a nonprofit. I'm on a mission to help people save resources, anything from natural resources to space, the, everything, everything, like your load, right? With these towels, we can literally lighten loads because,
Yeah.
like I said, think 4 t-shirts versus the weight of 4 t-shirts versus the weight of 4 bulky towels. That's what I would compare these to. Like, my 4 towels versus 4 standard towels. Literally lightening loads. I do the donation because I want to make sure that we reach as many people as possible. Because if you're doing laundry at a laundromat and you're dropping in those quarters or you're swiping your card, you feel the pain of how much more you have to spend to dry your standard towels, right? This is
Yeah.
you save so much. So I drop off donations at a safe haven for women and children. There's a couple of homeless shelters. There is a nonprofit Families for Families that helps families who are having challenging time getting on their feet, get set up. And recently, and this makes me so happy to talk about this. We're old fashioned and we get the hard copy newspaper every morning. We love reading newspaper. Like, we'll like to open it up. We like to look at Dupa's crossword. We like to ask each other questions. It's just what we do. We've always done it.
Love it. Yeah.
And back in August, I want to say it was like second week of August, I was reading the newspaper and I saw an article about this summer camp for homeless children from New York City. And I was like, oh, so I was reading it in depth. And then I went online and they had more pictures, photographs. I was like, okay. So they go swimming, they go camping, archery, and it's really very well done. It's, organized by Coalition for Homelessness. And I saw 300 children go there every summer. This is amazing. But saw that they're in the water a lot. And then there are photos of these kids folding these big drippy towels. And then they're sitting outside their cabin and you could tell that they're soppy, wet, drippy. And they're not going to dry fully by the next time they use them. So I picked up the phone. I'm always very direct. I'm like, okay, that's what it is. I Google it, put the number, and I call them and I go, hi, my name is Meera and I have a towel company and I would like to donate towels to your summer camp, right? For these children, something for them to take home and keep that's theirs. And she was so happy. She said, yes, we would take anything you can spare. And I was like, okay, let's make this happen. So my sales are driven not just by the need to help people save resources, but also to donate for a cause, right? So it's win-win. Like, if I can help, so at the end of the day, if I can help one person, even one person through my business, I've done good. That's how I feel. That's how I felt as a social worker. The same philosophy, the same principle, where if I can, like, I remember this time my husband had surgery, ACL surgery, and he had he had some pain, like he had an allergic reaction. And I said, you're going to have to take an Uber to the take a cab to see the doctor because I have to go. I have appointments. I have with my first one too. And it's like, I have like therapy clients and you can't just fail. You can't just not show.
Yeah.
I have to do that. He goes, oh my God. And I said, no, it matters. You have to show up. It matters. Out of them, it matters to do what's important. For me, that's how I feel about this. Like
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning so happy to sit down and start working on a project, for my business or to package or send out orders. It just makes me very happy to do that.
What a great story. And I remember when we were talking a few weeks ago, and I asked if you would want to sit down and do the podcast. And you're like, well, how are we going to talk about towels for so long? And it's a story behind, your business and not just the product. I mean, because, granted, any company that's out there could make a product and they can market it, but going to like the involving your kids in the business, to bringing business to a family of weavers in India, to solving problems for so many different populations that um, rely on, energy efficiency and limited space, and then giving back. I think it's that complete package, which I thought was just uh, an amazing story and an amazing business, and something that is definitely worth sharing. And, we were talking too, a few weeks ago, we were talking about Shark Tank, and like, we both kind of love the idea in hearing people, take their dream or their idea and make it into a reality. Um, I think you really embody that entrepreneurial spirit. And what would you give as advice to someone who wants to create a product or a business, while maybe even if they're living like the mobile lifestyle, if they're living in an RV, or they're traveling, or they're living at home, raising a family? What advice would you have to somebody that has that idea and to help them get started?
I don't have a business background. I don't. My background is, as you know, social work and being a mom for now 17 years. I don't have a background in textile, right? I don't have a lot of the things that you would think a business owner needs to have. A conventional business owner would have to start a business and let alone run it. My This product was born out of necessity in my mind. I actually never started with the mission of did this with with the purpose of starting a business. I was out looking for a product. I couldn't find it in the market. I have hundreds, Tom, hundreds of towels. Because we bought everything that we thought would check all of our boxes as far as towels go. And our whole family, we would try these different towels. We would like rate them. It started off as a fun project, but then we're like, wait a second, why do they not exist? Why can't we find them in the US? Like, what is this? And that's when we just,
Yeah.
and then we're like, we tried it and we tested. We're very scientific about it. And we believe in our product, truly believe that it makes a difference and that it works because we've tried it. And we have so many families in town who switched completely over to these towels. And what I would give as far as advice is have faith in yourself. Like if you believe in it, give it a shot. I'm going to tell you, a couple years ago when I had this idea, it actually, like, it was an idea and it wasn't even like I was thinking of a business. I'm like, oh, this towel that I got it's great. Like this is such a great towel. Like, won't it be great for business in my mind? I said that and I was talking to my husband before we went to bed. And then I got up at like 2 a.m. or something. I was sitting up and my husband goes, are you okay? And I was like, yes. He said, what are you doing? I was like, are you okay? I'm just thinking. And then he sat up, turns on his bedtime lamp, and he goes, looking at me, and he sat up too. He said, what are you thinking about? And I told him, I was like, I could do this. I could really do this. And he just smiled at me and I go, what? Why are you smiling? He's like, you got it. He goes, well, I go, what? It's like, you got the bug. You're going to do these. And you know what? He was absolutely right. Like, you'll never know. You won't know unless you try. And the way I go, like, I have nothing to lose because if anything, it's an education in an area that's new to me. You don't have no idea how much I learned about textile. I learned so much about textile, about cotton fibers, about just so many things. And people ask me, do you have a background in textile or business? Excuse me. And I'm like, no, I have, but my experience, how do you know so much? I said, because I'm a mom. A mom and laundry. It drives me crazy. I have this problem. I know a lot of other people who do laundry may be experiencing the same problems. So that's when we started. Like, and I was like, there's an uncle in my family. I remember he started a business based on an idea, and I remember him talking to my parents about it and telling them about it. And my mom said, well, how do you know it's going to work? And he goes, what if it fails? And he goes, I would rather be the man who tried and failed than the one who never tried at all, kind of, and that stuck with me. I might have been like 10 or 11 at the time. I was like, who says that? Well, I do now. But
Yeah,
I don't
I love it.
consider it a failure in any shape or form, because I know it works, and I know it's making a difference. And I drop off those towels especially at a safe haven. There's this woman, they know me as a towel lady. You would drop off the towel. Like, oh, it's a towel lady. And this woman says, thank you so much. This one woman, one time, she held my arm. She got me off guard. I was just walking out, and she goes, I wrap my baby in this towel, and it's easier to take her around. And this, thank you so much. And I was really moved. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's so great. And I think, and really good advice, like, have faith in yourself, have faith in your idea, because one of the things for every successful product out there, it solved the problem. And if you have that problem, chances are, which I think you experienced during COVID, other people have the same problems. And just like the ambition and the motivation that you kind of maintained throughout that whole process was really cool. I tell my daughter all the time, when don't be afraid of failure, because failure is the only thing that leads us to a solution. And all of the great products out there, the things that we use on a daily basis, probably the people that invented those products or started those companies or businesses failed dozens, hundreds of times before they found that thing that worked. So have that fearless, faithful attitude when you move into a business and an idea like you did. So great story, and I love it. All right, anybody that made it to this point in the podcast and listened or watched it, I am confident by now you want to go order yourself a towel. So Meera, how would somebody go ahead and buy a towel? Where do you sell them? Are they available online?
Yes, I have a website. So our business name is Haseru Life, and our website is www.haserulife.com. I'm also on Instagram, same handle, HASERULIFE, on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. Great. And I will put the link down in the show notes and also on the screen here. So if you want to get yourself a towel, just go ahead and click on the link, and you have all different colors and varieties available online.
Yes, I do. I have 9 colors. Well, no, I just sold out one. And I have to go and update my website because we have low stock. Like, they're selling the hand towels are almost sold out, but I have some colors left, just a couple of them. And I have a couple of upcoming events. On Facebook and Instagram, I update there. So if you're in the area and you want to try them out for person to see, just try them before you buy them. So you can decide for yourself in person whether it is right for you. Stop by. Yeah, and I'll always talk about exactly where I'm going and where I'll be located at each event. Yeah.
Cool. So if somebody's following you on Instagram, they'll see if you have an event coming up. If you're going to be tabling somewhere, they can then show up and see one of your towels in real life.
Yeah. So if somebody watches your podcast or one of your YouTube videos, and this has happened a couple of times actually, they'll watch somebody they follow on YouTube, right? Or you know what I mean? And then they'll see me at an event and they'll be like, wait a second, we see me. And I was like, oh, we met you before somewhere. I was like, okay. and they don't remember exactly where it is. And then they're like, wait a second.
They're like, you're the towel lady.
Hey, I'm going to salad. I'm like, all right, I'm going to first take it. And
Definitely.
yeah, and then they try it. And they're like, oh yes, and they get it. They understand. That's when they get to really put pieces together. They can appreciate what it is that whoever it is, they're the YouTuber or the podcaster, or whoever they follow, the influencer, what they were talking about. Yeah.
Very cool. And so what about what's coming up next? Anything new in the works or any other ideas that you're working on, or are you just kind of focusing solely on kind of like what's in front of you right now?
Yes, I have a couple of things in the works, but I can't tell you right now. It's too soon. It's premature because I'm waiting. I'll have a reveal on my website and on social media when I have those products out and ready to sell. But I really wanted to. So that's one thing I'm excited about. Another thing is that getting those sales out and making that pile the donation pile higher, taller and taller, so we could donate to causes that matter to us. It's really nice. I think when I drop off those towels, those are the best days. So as where I said that it was there are two favorite things about my business is being able to give back. And the other one is building this with my family, with my children. They have been a part of every single growth section of my business. Like every part, they've been there the entire way. They know the ins and outs. They could run this. If I disappear for a month, they could do it. No, really. They come in and they're like, come up to my computer to do all the updates and changes, my Instagram. They can do everything. They could at these events. My daughter came with us to AirVenture. I don't know if you're familiar with that in
No, what is that?
So once a year in Wisconsin, they have the world's largest air show event. 600,000 people come in that week. It's amazing. So at an event in Salt Lake City that I was at, another business owner came up to me. He has a nonprofit, and he said, "This is amazing. I love this product. Pilots would love them. Like just like this. This is how I find." I'm like, "Alrighty, I'll try anything." So we went to AirVenture, and my daughter was there with us, and she was doing sales, and she was doing the math in her head, and really listening to people and telling you what suggestions and ideas they had, and people would buy one, and I always, when they wonder, like, should I buy them to get the sale price? I'm like, you know what? Don't even buy that many. Just trust. You see what this feels like and think about it. And they'll come back and say, well, I want to buy just one, but what if I want to buy more? I'm like, do it. Like, just buy one. Don't buy four. Because I reason the bulk sales, right? Like you bundle and save sort of deal. And say, just come back. If you like it, come back and then you can buy more and I'll give you that price. Like, don't even worry about it. And they almost always come back. And that's really exciting. That's the best part when they said, oh, I came and I spoke to your husband or your daughter. I'm like, yeah, okay. If you say so, absolutely. Go ahead. Like, speak the colors you like. Let's do this, So it's a lot of fun building it with my children because that's something, and they're watching me fumble along the way, figure it out. I'll Google things, see how to do it. I'll watch a YouTube video. Watching me set up that Shopify account is painful. It was a couple years ago. I don't have any tech experience, neither me or my husband. And I set it up on my own. And I got in there to begin with, and I was setting things up, Tom, and I was like, oh, I have a question. This bubble popped up. I said, may I help you? I was like, oh, yes. I'm like typing this question down. And I was like sitting there waiting. And my son saw me type it and walk by. You're smiling. You know what it was, right? And he walked by into the kitchen, and then he was just in the kitchen for 5 minutes, kind of standing there, eating an apple or a banana or something. And then he comes back, he walks by, he goes, wait a second, what are you doing? It's like, well, I asked a question, and I'm waiting for tech to help tech support, and puts his to respond, puts his hand on my shoulder. I go, oh, Mom, you just asked yourself a question. That's for your website. I was like, oh, no, I've stepped a long way from there.
Yeah. Oh.
Frank was like, don't tell people that. And I was like, but you know what? It's like, that's where I've come from. Like, I really wouldn't, like, setting things up on Shopify, like, is not as easy. Like, the things that I wanted to do, to where I'm like, okay, let me figure out how to do this coding now. So you learn things. Where there's a will, there's a way. You can do it. You just have to want to do it badly enough, or try it badly enough, right? And if you're resourceful enough, you could figure it out. Just, there's no shame in asking questions. There's no manual out there, Tom, about how to start a business. Like, that's a startup, right?
Zero.
When you design something, and if you, going back to, how you asked me if there's any advice for new business owner, or like anybody aspiring to have their own business, start their own business. There's no manual. I Googled everything. I would call these random offices, government agencies, like, like, what am I supposed to do? How do I do it? And A would tell me to call B, B would tell me to call A. Like, this, it didn't make any sense. I mean, it was interesting stumbling and figuring it out along the way. And yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. Well, that means, I think, sometimes that's the only way to do it. You gotta, like you said, stumble and figure it out, because you're creating something from nothing. And the coolest part about that, and I think I mentioned this a few times, is having your kids be part of that process, having them see that. Because in school and in life, that's not part of, you don't take a how to start a business class like when you're in high school, but having them able to see that, and to kind of solve problems on their own, and see their mom solve the problems, and create something that is a real business, a real product, and be involved in that, I think is just such a invaluable experience for kids growing up. So kudos to that. I love it very much. Um, all right. So at the end of every episode, I'm trying to talk a little bit about community and connections. So I like to end every episode with a little reflection. And, right now, we're living in a world full of noise, whether it's AI or social media or distractions coming from every aspects of our lives. What's one thing that you hope people remember about real connection? And I think you have you talked a lot about this when describing your business.
So, for me, connections often start, and not necessarily, but many times, with shared experiences, right? When I talk to somebody for the first time, I try to listen to see what it is that they're going through, what it is you can do to help. It's like that, what is it? And when there's a lot of chaos, listen for the helpers, right? There's always someone saying, "Can I help you?" Like, something like that. I forget what it is. It's from like Mr.
Yeah.
Rogers quote or something. I can't remember.
I like it.
Whatever it is, like, it's a shared, and there's that part of it, but there's the shared experiences where you talk to someone, you make a connection. It's important to maintain those connections, because, sometimes reaching out to someone when they are low, sometimes just knocking on a neighbor's door to see if they're okay, uh, bake a dessert and drop it off and share it with your friends. Like, it's just nice to stay connected and just remind each other that you're there for them. I don't know if that answers your question. Like,
It does. Yeah.
that helps. But like, something, and that's how, for me, it's like the shared connection is a big part of my business, which makes me wonder why I can't explain this very well. But when the towels are being a common, like, it's a pain point, right? What could be a solution for everybody, right? Whether you're taking a towel to the beach, is it always wet and sandy? Like, how can this one thing, it's universal, like, you could use it anywhere, everywhere, right? For me, it's a shared connection, if that makes any sense, right?
It absolutely does. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And I think the cool thing is that, like, we don't live in our own silos. Sometimes it feels like that with, like, social media, or you know just the world around us. But those connections that, like, that you talked about, like whether it was like the summer camp for homeless kids, or making that connection with the family of weavers that are helping to produce your product. They're real people, real lives, real stories that your idea is transcending, buying something on the internet to um, touching the lives of different people.
You said it. You said it very well. That's exactly why I love that way my customers, without really having to seek or try to figure it out or map out how or where to do a donation. Instead of that, we do it for them. Like, we do that where that connection happens, right? They're helping someone with just a purchase. So that is a big deal. For every 5, we donate 1. So that's actually a lot more than you'd think. Like, I could fit it all in my SUV and do a drop off, and in about 7 or 8 bins. Like, I do it.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Meera, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share, your story and to introduce hopefully everybody that's watching to a new product. I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast. I like to share information with people and innovators that are helping to shape the way that we travel. And it's the story behind the products that are out there and the innovations that are made that kind of brings us all together. So Meera, thank you again for being here. And if you are in the market for a more sustainable towel that is ideally the perfect towel for RVers, go to HaSeru Life and order your towel. And as Meera mentioned at the show she goes to, you'll likely be coming back for more.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom. It was a delight talking to you.